Episode 30. What if we discovered aliens?
Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover all kinds of cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show.
Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about what if we discovered aliens. But first, I have with me Daniel Grove, the guy who's not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
It's true, though. It's true.
And myself, Nate Gunn, the guy who prefers Microsoft Paint over Adobe Photoshop. Now, before we dive too deep into the discussion, have you seen the Maniac trailer?
I have. It looks super cool. I'm really excited about that. For those of you who don't know, Maniac is a Netflix original show that is coming out soon, I hope. And when I first watched the trailer, I was like, this is a mashup of The OA, which is another Netflix show, mixed in with Inception with a little sprinkling of Stranger Things. And it looks awesome.
And Total Recall.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, maybe. A little bit of Lord of the Rings, if you know what I'm talking about.
I know. What? Like, that blew my mind. I thought you were just messing with me. And then I went and looked. I was like, oh.
Yes, I want to see Emma Stone as a magical elf. She looks awesome. So for those who haven't watched the trailer, they're probably really confused right now. But I'm just going to tell you, go watch the trailer for Maniac on YouTube. It looks incredible. Hopefully it actually turns out to be as good as it looks.
Yeah, Netflix is just pumping them out. Someone said and now don't hold me to this, but someone said about 200 plus movies or episodes are coming out with just like new originals. And I was like, oh my goodness gracious.
How do they hire and take care of all those projects? They just have a lot of delegation. I don't know. But I like it. I like what they're doing. Them and Amazon Prime are doing a pretty good job with their original stuff. Speaking of YouTube, I was informed this morning by one of my photographer friends who I photographed her sons in a cosplay shoot. It was a Fortnite, which is a video game, cosplay photo shoot. It looked incredible. Photos are awesome. Posted a few of them online. And I got a call from the mother this morning. I'm thinking, oh no, I'm in trouble. Like, so something went wrong.
But you know you're in trouble when the mommy calls.
Yeah, you better get ready. So she said, are you aware that someone stole one of your photos and put it in a YouTube video? I'm thinking, oh, phew. No, I was not aware of this. Please tell me more. So I checked it out. She sent me the link. And what it was is some guy, I think his name is Apollo on YouTube. He made a Fortnite cosplay video. Basically just shows like a side-by-side of the video game character from the game, and then a real photo next to that of a cosplayer that did a cosplay of that character. So one of my photos got jacked and thrown into his video, which, it's kind of cool.
Oh, man.
But kind of not cool because A, he never asked me for permission to use my copywritten photo that I made. And B, he didn't list any photographer's credit, not only for me, but for any of the people in this video. And this is a 10-minute video, and there is a lot of really good, pretty much all of them were professional, almost all of them were professional photographs that, took a good amount of skill, a good amount of editing. These are definitely from photographers who knew what they're doing, and no one got any credit anywhere. So that's really lame, and apparently this guy doesn't understand copyright or doesn't care.
Now, is he making a profit off of it, or is it just like education?
I'm assuming this is profitable because the video was, it had an ad on it. And I think you can only have ads on your videos if you select them to have ads, which means you make some money off of that. So,
I was going to say if it was more like informational education, maybe just a slap on the wrist.
But even if it was that, you should still have credit, which you didn't. So, calling you out, Apollo, not cool. Give me some credit, give me some profit. I mean, if it weren't for all these photos that you stole, you would have no video. So
we're sure you're a great guy, but what you did on the content is, it's a slap on the wrist.
Exactly.
Hey, just give credit where credit's due.
Mm-hmm. A lot of video producers, a lot of YouTubers, they don't understand the depth and the seriousness of what copyright means and why it's a big deal, quote unquote, why it's a big deal to us photographers. Yeah. If I stole one of his videos that he made of himself or something he created and used it in my stuff, he'd probably complain about that. So it's just, we're all in the same boat. He's a creator. I'm a creator. A musician is a creator, a writer is a creator, and all our stuff belongs to us and, should be used in the right way. So there's that. I wrote him. I left a comment and said, see how this can work out, hopefully for the benefit of both of us. And we'll see what happens. I'm expecting anything serious.
I mean, if nothing comes out of it, you just got more exposure. Yeah. So you can just tag yourself in the comments. Hey, it's me.
Yeah. By the way, that awesome photo at 4 minutes and 30 seconds is mine. So moving on, today we are talking about aliens, a near and dear subject to both of our hearts. We are science fiction junkies. I love movies. I love superhero comics. I love all the stuff that has to do with aliens. And I've always been intrigued by the topic of aliens. Are they real? Yes or no? If they are, where are they? And if they're in our galaxy, if they're nearby, why haven't we heard from them? And what will it be like when we finally make first contact with aliens? A lot of ifs, a lot of questions.
To all your questions, yes, they are real. Where are they? They're on Earth, and why have we not heard from them? Well, we saw Men in Black. So they're not going to expose themselves. So
it's all a cover up. I'm telling you, they're there. Or to quote Mulder in X-Files, I want to believe. So
I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
Yeah, any mysterious thing that no one has the direct answer for, blame it on aliens or the Illuminati. So,
yeah.
Then you're good. That's in the Conspiracy Theorists Handbook, Chapter 1. All right, so let's start off the discussion by talking about some pop culture stuff. What are your favorite alien designs, whether it's from a movie, a comic book, a show, whatever? What's your favorite alien, Nate?
Recently I watched Arrival, and I'm gonna be honest with you, that, in my opinion, that's kind of what it's more alien-like than like human-like.
Yeah.
I don't know that's a different, we can talk about that later. But it was good. I mean, like, it kind of pulled me out of the movie, kind of put me in the movie, and but that alien design and whatever language they were speaking, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was pretty cool just to see like that's an alien. It's a blob, and
it's like a vertical whale.
Yeah, they look like an octopus vertical whale, but it was good. So currently, I think that's my most like up to date favorite.
Yeah.
Now I have a list of favorite, but most recent.
Yeah, I could probably go back in 5-year increments and say this alien was my favorite here. This alien was my favorite here.
Yeah. If we're gonna nitpick, we can find like a list full of like Wikipedia's like, oh yeah, that movie, this movie, this movie.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Arrival aliens were very unique. They were very alien, like I said, for lack of better terms. And they were creative, and they were truly alien. They didn't have 2 arms and 2 legs and a head with 2 eyes. It was like, what am I looking at? Where do I look? How is this talking and moving? We don't know. It's an alien.
Yeah. And then the way they speak was very unique. Whoever thought of that part right there, bravo. Like, good job. Like, it wasn't like mumble jumble. It was just like as they spoke with shapes and some underground hum.
Some good audio design and visual design working together, making something cool. Finally, getting a little old for the humanoid aliens all the time.
What about you, Daniel?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit of a hypocrite here. My favorite alien that I could think of off the top of my head recently was from Independence Day. So they're kind of humanoid. Oh, yeah. They've got 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. But the design of that body is really incredible, very scary and gross and monstery. I also loved the mystery around the alien itself. Like, they didn't reveal all the alien, for most of the movie. I think there's 1 or 2 scenes like in the Area 51 lab when he controls the doctor and stuff. Eventually you do see the whole body, but there's all the smoke and fog, and I love that scene earlier when they cut the head open. You're like, what am I looking at? There's another alien inside. And it's revealed that external shell, which is really huge and tall and scary, is actually just an exoskeleton. Which is organic, we don't have that. It's not a mech suit, it's a organic suit. Very cool.
If they left it as is on the outside shell, it's still been cool. Alien, like when Will Smith punched him in the face, he's like, nah, and hit him and drug him across the desert.
Welcome to Earth. Yeah, classic line. He needs that tattooed onto him.
Right? Classic.
Yeah, so I really like the Independence Day aliens. I don't know if they ever got a name, but cool suit, cool internal body, cool spaceship design. They were just all around great aliens. Good guys, really nice. Just a little misunderstood. They just needed a welcoming basket, and they would have been great.
They just took a wrong turn at Albuquerque. And
they were going from Mars.
Legit. New Mexico or wherever they were.
Another cool alien that I had a hard time picking which one was the alien from the new Lost in Space TV show. And it's more robotic, it's more technological, but from what I've seen from season 1, that is the alien itself. That is his body. Maybe season 2 will reveal something else, but that would be kind of weird.
You really can't take off the helmet because it's kind of like a fear, like
his head.
Like you're looking in a galaxy thing.
He would take off his head, and he can change his shape. He's not like stuck in one body shape. He kind of reformed himself to look like Will. That was really awesome. So yeah, I look for what I like in alien designs is something that looks non-human. with a few exceptions, and something that is new and creative and just is believable. Like this thing evolved or was created on a totally different solar system, hundreds of light years away, and came here. When I see an alien that looks just like a human but with purple skin and green hair, I'm not really impressed. And when they talk with British accents, I really lose it at that point.
And now you're just offending all the Trek fans out there.
Yes.
That's funny. I mean, back then you get it. It's budget. It's just easier to have a human with
makeup,
prosthetics on their face and makeup. But now it's Independence Day. They made CGI and practical aliens. Why are we not doing that like in the newer Star Trek and Star Wars? Nah, Star Wars kind of is going the way of more alien, not humanoid kind of looking stuff.
Yeah, I like the Star Wars universe because there's so many different alien races, and not all of them are pretty and nice to look at. And you have to think from their perspective of that alien. To them, we might look really disgusting and ugly because they are themselves and they're used to that. So I just like the variety in alien design. I like creative stuff like that. So cool. So speaking of aliens, first contact is a phrase that refers to when humans and aliens have first contact, obviously, and it's kind of going to be a big deal if it ever happens one day. Some of my favorite first contact situations, I kind of looked over some movies and thought about it, and some of them that are worth mentioning are, like you said, Arrival. That first contact, that's pretty much what the whole movie is based around, is the attempt to communicate. That's probably going to be one of our biggest barriers if we ever find an alien race, is how the heck do we understand them and how do they understand us?
Yeah, unless they're like super smart and can figure out
that
they just can speak English or something like that. But I think, honestly, watching Arrival, it was making me think, I was like, man, like if it really came down to it, I think this is where we'd be. And I'm like, man, like that'd take a long time, but sheesh.
Yeah, it's true. I like that movie because it was a reality check on that issue that a lot of sci-fi just breeze over. Either there's a translation device that magically, technologically can fix our voices and change it like a Google language thing, or the aliens are super smart and they decode our language in like 1 hour and suddenly they can speak in British accents. I see that a lot too. But the reality is probably neither of those things are going to work out. If you remember in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, there was also a language barrier there when the aliens arrived, and they used music. Now, that's not really a solid form of communication. I don't remember how that actually panned out, but they were like playing musical notes. It was cool.
I think that's more for the enjoyment of actually standing aside from the character building of, okay, we have no clue what this alien's saying, like Arrival, but then like in Star Wars, Star Trek, I think they give them more of a clear voice of communication, however that is for humans, so they can focus not on how they learn how to talk to each other, but how they solve problems and battles and fun and fantasy.
Yeah, I totally understand. Like, I understand how they find loopholes in that whole issue is so they can get on with the story and tell a good story. And it makes sense, but I don't know. I love to critique stuff, and I like to try to say, would this be real, or what would it really look like if this really happened? And that's one hurdle that is not appreciated much. That's just me. I grew up watching Mystery Science Theater 3000, so I pretty much make fun of and tear everything apart. It's a blessing and a curse.
That's funny.
Some other movies that had some really good first contacts in them were Ender's Game. Now, I don't think this was really talked about in the movie itself, but in the books. The first contact with the Formics, which are the buggy, ant-looking aliens in that book series, is really a cool, thought-provoking one, because at first, even in the movie, they paint this picture of the aliens being bad, bug-like monsters that just kill, they're merciless, and they don't give a crap about humans. They just want to take over our planet, and they killed millions of people in the process of trying to do that. Luckily, Ender Wagon, well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but he saves the day. But the aliens are always bad guys. But when you look at the origin story in the books, that what's described there is basically the aliens didn't know that we were sentient because we didn't have a hive mind like they do. The Formics in this universe, in the Ender's Game universe, they are there's a queen that controls through basically psychic neural connections all of the ants and all the aliens that are underneath her. And there's drones, and then there's worker ants. Basically, they're aliens, but it works like an ant hive. And so they don't really have individuality. They're all controlled by the queen, and we don't have that. So when the first invasion happened in these books, the aliens sent their scout ship, they saw humans, and they wiped us all out trying to terraform the Earth. They didn't know that we were a sentient, well-meaning and capable race. They just thought we were the equivalent of, a cockroach that you step on because you don't like it and you want to get it out of the way so you can do your work. It's the same thing. So they didn't know we were sentient until I think later in that story they realized, oh my gosh, humans are actually they're different from us, but humans are sentient too. We should not kill them, but it's too late by that point. And so that's a cool thought. We might be so different from aliens, we may just not comprehend each other. What we would take as an act of aggression or offense might be totally normal to them, and they expect that we, knew better. That they would, as vice versa. We expect that they know how to interact with us, but the reality is that we probably wouldn't have any common ground to work on as far as how to interact with each other initially. So I like that about Ender's Game. It was kind of a thought-provoking, different first contact type thing.
I mean, we deal with language barriers in life, just with different cultures and different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could say a word, and I know that might offend somebody over the lake, and be like, "Oh, well, how rude of you!" And I'm like, "What? I just said a word," and they're like, "Yeah, but that's very offensive." So, in real life, you should expect a language barrier. So, at the possibility of them showing up, for sure, unless they decrypt our language, there's going to be a language barrier. And like in Arrival, when they're watching, the aliens are asking and wanting to do something, and the humans are taking as they want. Like the alien wants a weapon, and people are like, "Oh no, they want war." And, and in the movie, China actually freaks out and starts lining up stuff and goes cold for the rest of the world because there's I don't remember how many ships landed in the movie, but this is just an opinion and a thought of what if there will be a language barrier unless they decrypt our wonderful language.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some culture, if not right now on the Earth, but sometime in the past, where if I were to have walked up to them and put my hand out for a handshake and smiled at them with my teeth, that might be like a call for, fight. That might be super offensive and or totally inappropriate for a human culture. How much more with an alien culture? So anyway, some other movies that have some really cool first contacts are The Abyss. That was a little different take because aliens apparently have already been on the Earth, like they're in hibernation or something under the ocean. And they have a first contact with humans, and they're like, hey, you guys got to stop using nukes because you're going to kill yourself. Kind of a typical environmental story there. Well done, and quite beautiful, actually, even for a 90s movie. Another movie is Sphere. Now, this isn't really an alien first contact story, but it is first contact with an alien device. And so they find this spaceship underneath the ocean, and similar to The Abyss. But in the spaceship, they find this huge metal sphere. And this sphere has very strange effects on the environment around it. Whoever goes into the sphere basically can do things that no one else can. So I'll just leave it at that. You got to watch the movie Sphere. It's really cool. I like that because we don't know who made this object. We don't know how it works. It just does. It's very alien and mysterious. Came from another part of the galaxy, and to where it came from, it might have been just a normal everyday tool for those aliens. But when the humans get a hold of it, oh man, we wreak havoc and destruction and bad stuff happens. So we've touched on the likelihood of aliens, reaching us and the problems that we'll face when they're here. But if we back out and look at the big picture of things, the first big problem we have to overcome is really the size of our galaxy and all the things that entails. Star Wars and other similar sci-fis have really kind of shrunk down the galaxy and even the universe down to very understandable terms that are comfortable and great for storylines. But realistically, things are so far apart in space that it would just blow your mind when you really get into it and start to briefly understand the distances involved between planets. It's wild, and it's nothing like what you see in sci-fi. They jump on their spaceship, and within 10 minutes they're out of the atmosphere. Another 15 minutes they're jumping through hyperspace, and voila, they're at this wild, crazy alien planet so far away. But really, it just took them 2 minutes of movie time and maybe 30 minutes to an hour of story time. And they're already halfway across the galaxy. That is just very far from
microwave results.
Yeah. So there's something called the Fermi paradox. Nate, before this episode, have you ever heard of this?
I have, but not in detail.
Okay.
But before that, I was like, what in the world is that?
It's got a cool name. That's
it
important.
Does. It sounds like a movie.
It does. If you're going to make a theory or a postulation, something about space, you got to have a really good name. And luckily, this one's got a good one. So the Fermi paradox is kind of a big thing. It's a big set of ideas. But the tip of the iceberg of the Fermi paradox is this. that in our galaxy, there is estimated to be 200 billion stars, even upwards to 400 billion stars. So that's a star like our sun in floating around the center of our galaxy, right? Now, let's say that approximately 1/5 of those suns have Earth-sized planets floating around in the habitable Goldilocks zone. That means not too close where it burns up like Mercury and Venus, but not too far away where it's cold like Jupiter and Saturn. In the Goldilocks zone, right? So if 1/5 of those stars have a habitable planet, then that's roughly 40 million planets that could sustain life. So the next step that we take is if only 1% of those 40 million planets can sustain life, that's 1/100th, right? Then that's still a lot of planets that could potentially, this is all theoretical, but they could have life. And that is a crap ton of planets floating around our galaxy. So that's cool, right? It's almost kind of comforting to think, hey, there could be aliens out there. But the end of this kind of thought process within the Fermi paradox is, okay, where are they at though? Why haven't we heard any signals? Why haven't we seen any evidence? Seen any flickering lights or spaceships or lasers or anything? We haven't seen nothing around us to tell us, yes, there are indeed a lot of aliens out there. There's nothing to go on yet. So that's in a very small nutshell, that's the Fermi paradox. And if you look at the Wikipedia, it's really cool. It actually explains a bunch of different arguments as to why we haven't. And there's a bunch of different thoughts, different theories within that, such as there were aliens at one time, they sent out signals, but those signals hit Earth before we were advanced enough to read them. Another thing is we are a very early race, and other races are still coming into their technological age on their planet, and they haven't been able to send out radio signals. Another problem is, radio signals are just too far away, and there's no way we can read them accurately, or we'll never be able to see or communicate either way because they're just so dang far away. So as you can see, there's lots of problems within the Fermi paradox that kind of explain, theoretically, like where they at. And in reality, humans as a technologically advanced civilization are very short-lived so far. We've only been in this galaxy for a blink of an eye. It's such a short amount of time. Just 500 years ago, we thought we were the center of the universe. Earth-centric theology and worldview, a lot of people had that. 200 years ago, we were just getting into our industrial revolution, which is learning how to make things and make machines and do stuff easier instead of using children to do everything. 30, 40 years ago, we finally set up the SETI, which is a search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and they've got this ginormous antenna dish that emits signals, and it also listens for signals from intelligent life out there. And that's how we're trying to receive these signals, and we haven't heard anything yet. Nothing intelligible. So that's just 34 years ago. And of course, 30 years ago, we were pretty much about to destroy each other with nukes. So humans, we've just become like infants as far as an alien race on our own planet.
I mean, you think about all these aliens that inhabit other planets, or you think of off topic of the Marvel and everything, they just have different places they can go. We're just now in like the last 30 years thinking about how we can inhabit Mars, and we're getting closer and closer. So we are, like you said, we're very infant in this situation. If there are aliens, they're probably either in this lifespan that they'll have, they're probably already figuring out how to have like communication without even talking and inhabiting another planet. And
there's so many possibilities. They could be so beyond electricity. They could be so beyond radio wave communication that they're sending out signals wondering, where is everyone? And we're just so like old school. We're using old fashioned radio frequencies that, we can't communicate to each other because we're just literally on different frequencies and, different ways of doing things. We don't know. There's a lot of possibilities there. And, it's funny because the more you research real science and learn about the size of the galaxy and the problems of not only interstellar travel, but also communication, it's really disheartening for a sci-fi fan like myself. It's kind of sad. It's like, man, this sucks. It's nothing like what I thought it'd be when I was a kid, thanks to sci-fi. And just the galaxy is an enormous space. It's just so big. It reminds me of a quote that has always stuck with me. It's from the movie Contact, one of my 90s sci-fi favorites. And basically it's where young Ellie, which is the female character when she's a kid, in the beginning of the movie, she's talking with her dad, who's kind of an astronomer, space guy. So little Ellie says, "Dad, do you think there's people on other planets?" And the dad says, "I don't know, Sparks, but I guess I'd say if it is just us, it seems like an awful waste of space." And that's a great quote. because it puts it into perspective. Like, what if it is just us? It's really sad for nerds like me, but what if it is literally just humans on Earth in our arm of the galaxy, and that everything else is barren and, you know, no life anywhere? That's a bummer. And it's a large galaxy, which is kind of been going to waste as far as real estate goes. There could be some great, you know, vacation homes on other planets that they're not getting touched because we're just here.
It's sad to think that math and science and people are saying there's no existence. And then for people that grow up in like the 2000s, 90s, wherever you started growing up and sci-fi became a thing, it's like, oh, please let there be that opportunity of having alien. But at the same time, like if you live in the city of New York, you're pretty much doomed. So we're not going to move there.
Don't let there be aliens because New York will get destroyed. And my insurance premiums will go up. The alien invasion premium charge. So that quote is always kind of stuck in my head. And that movie specifically is interesting because it deals with religion and alien life in an interesting way, especially considering that it's written by an atheist. Carl Sagan, you know, he's a very outspoken atheist, not a fan of religion, not a fan of Christianity. Yet the character in that movie, the supporting character, who is a very outspoken Christian, gets a fair treatment. You know, he's not looked at as a crazy. He's not just blown off and, you know, science takes the scene. And religion is just some old thing that, you know, slows us down from progress. So I was really surprised at that. And I appreciated that as a Christian myself. But that quote from her dad in the movie saying that space is a waste of space, you know, I started thinking about that as I grew up through a Christian lens. And to a Christian, you know, let's say there's no aliens. We're just going to go down that route for this idea. There's no aliens in the galaxy. God just made us. God redeemed just us, and we're going to be with him for eternity. You know, those who are in a relationship with him and want to be in with God. So it's just us. And why is God wasting all that space out there? Well, I came to the conclusion that it's actually not a waste of space. So then the question in my mind is, okay, what's the purpose of all this space then? And I believe that it is to show the glory of God. It's to show the power of God, the creativity of God, the thought, the level of thought and creation that God put into the material and immaterial, perhaps, universe that's out there for us to observe and learn about. It really is kind of like a signature that he left behind. And not that God is gone and has left us. That's a deistic viewpoint. But I believe God made the universe. He's still here. But the universe is also here for us to look at and be like, wow, like, who made this? How was it made? And I want to know that person. And that's God, you know, in my belief. For example, I mean, the Bible has lots of references to the heavens. And if you really, really want to get into it, this is not for this episode, but there's 3 different heavens in the Bible. There's the heavens as the atmosphere, there's the heavens of space, and there's the heavens of the supernatural realm where God and angels and yada, yada, you know, exists outside of our material universe. So the scripture in Psalm 19, 1 through 6, I really like. I'm not going to read the whole thing. And don't worry, guys, I'm not getting into a sermon here. I just want to put this out there. So Psalms 19:1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge." So that's a really beautiful poetry, yes, but the meaning of it, you know, who knows? Maybe that has a deeper meaning as far as space. Like the heavens are declaring God's glory, not literally. Planets are not talking and speaking, although there are plenty of waves and frequencies bouncing around out in space coming from objects. That's kind of a little bunny trail there. But I kind of think that space is there to show God's glory and power and to make us wonder who made it and, you know, how did it get here and what's our role in this ginormous piece of art? Why are we so dang special? And that's a good question to ask. So,
well, it's like if you stop and think about it, there's 400 billion suns and I mean, there's things on the internet you can say, how small are we?
Yeah.
And they start all the way from like an atom to people to, you know, it just keeps growing. And it almost makes you think like, man, like what you just said, kind of echoing what you just said. It's like, we are so beyond tiny.
Yes.
And that
it's pretty depressing. If you don't have a God that's made everything and still cares about you despite the size of everything, it's pretty depressing, I think. But also, I guess, awe-inspiring.
I want to say there's aliens. I've always thought it'd be interesting, but man, I mean, it kind of, when you talk about aliens, people are like, well, then where is heaven on the other side of the galaxy? I'm like, well,
a planet heaven. It's really, really big. Later on, we'll talk a little bit more about the effect on religion that aliens might have if we do discover them, and where do they fit into that whole system. There is a thing called the Kardashev scale. Have you ever heard of this, Nate?
Sounds like food.
It does sound pretty tasty.
It does.
And again, he's got a sweet name for a space theory.
Exactly.
You can't be like if you're an astronomer or a physicist and your last name's like Smith or like something basic, you cannot make a theory with your last name in it. The Smith theorem, like no.
You basically have to come up with like a word like technobabble and then a really nice word, and then you make sense.
You gotta have like a Russian name in there. Russian names make great scientific theories.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. They just do.
Why'd you change your name? I had a point and I needed to make it. So I went downtown and changed it.
I submitted my thesis last weekend. Well, I got to have a good name to go with it. Oh my gosh. That would be a great webcomic right there. So the Kardashev scale is, again, kind of a theoretical framework for us to understand possibly future things, and also to help see our place in this ginormous universe. So the Kardashev scale has 3 different degrees. It's called type 1, 2, and 3 civilizations. So the type 1 civilization is a race that can harness the whole energy range and resources from their own planet. That could include wind, solar, heat, even materials, everything from up in the atmosphere down to the core of the planet, using all of it efficiently without destroying the planet, but allowing it to keep you alive. That's some pretty advanced stuff. We're not there. I read somewhere online that humans are we're like a 0.84 on the Kardashev scale. We're not even a 1 yet. I don't know if we're even that far along. I'd say maybe 0.5 because we're doing a pretty bad job at using our resources. But yeah, so that's the type 1. An advanced civilization for sure, but it gets crazier. Type 2 is a civilization or a race that can harness the entire energy output from their home star. That's like a Dyson sphere kind of situation where we are somehow sucking out or catching all the heat and light and energy and radiation from our star and using it to benefit life in that solar system. That's going to take some serious superstructures, to surround and envelop an entire star. I don't know if that's even possible, but yeah, that's a type 2. So they definitely know what's going. They know what's up. They got it going on. They're using their star to support themselves. They're not using fossil fuel or gasoline. They're way beyond that. Type 3 civilization is, and this is pretty mind-blowing, this is a race that harnesses not just their planet, not their star, but every star in their galaxy. Whoa. Yeah.
I'm blown.
Brains all over the wall. So I'm sure there's been a few sci-fis out there, probably Star Trek and some really big space operas that have even touched on this idea of a race that has total efficient, control over their galaxy. That's pretty terrifying, actually. I almost don't want to be in that galaxy. Can you imagine the energy bill? Woo. No thanks. Yeah, that's a Kardashev scale, type 1, 2, and 3. And we kind of use that, as a frame of reference when we look at, potential alien life. And where do they fit on this scale? If they're type 3, we might need to be worried. There's some cause for concern. Unless they are completely benevolent and good, demigods, then we're all right. But if they're any ounce not good, we're in big trouble because these guys are basically gods. I mean, they're like Asgardians, and then some. If they can control everything in the galaxy. Yeah, most aliens in sci-fi movies are, type 1. Some of them are type 2, I'd assume, with their, very highly advanced technologies. And, either they come to take over our star to use it as their next fuel source, or they come to help us and, say, hey, guys, here's a way to do it better. Although that's really rare. I can't even think on the top of my head any sci-fis that have a good, nice aliens that come to just help us out for the purpose of being nice. Can you?
No, I can't.
They're all bad because that makes good movies.
Yeah, and they're British.
Yeah, they have British evil accents, and they come to take our stars. Come and take it, I say. So that brings us on to the next part of this episode is what if we discovered aliens? Like what would happen to Earth? What would happen to religion? What would happen to society, even economy? Like how would that affect, the prices of things and markets and how we just live everyday life? I feel like it would just be totally saturated by everything alien related, at least for a time, like when a catastrophe happens, that's just all you hear about. Or when something really good happens, that fills up the news for maybe a week. and then it fades.
Yeah.
If we ever hit if we ever hit the gold mine of discovering aliens that can communicate, oh man, we can't even really comprehend what will happen, but it'll be big. Yeah.
Man, I mean, a lot of people want it, and a lot of people are afraid of it, regardless of your opinion. I think once it happens, like in reality, when technology advances, there's a lot of pushback. If we actually had an alien experience where they're here, people are gonna be like, never mind. But you can't really say never mind at something that figured out that we're here.
Yeah, and I feel like if an alien race is advanced enough to travel hundreds of light years, if not tens of light years, depending on where they're coming from, if an alien race can get to us and survive and also land on our planet and not crash in Roswell, then they're pretty advanced. And I feel like a significantly advanced race like that, like a Type 2 civilization, they should be past like, we're here to wipe you out and take your resources, you know? Like they should be civilized by that point.
I mean, shoot, you say they're smart. My theory is if they're so smart and they're coming from outer space and they see the Earth, you see blue and turquoises and greens. What makes you think they're going to land in like New Mexico, the desert where nobody...
Yeah, why would they go there? Why? Yeah. Are they stupid? Yeah.
I don't know. Like, do you really think they're going to crash land there? Or, I don't know, maybe they were computing on how many people live in that if they fell there, they wouldn't hurt anybody. You never know.
They're nice guys. How sweet of them. Yeah, I listened to a podcast recently where they were just blasting the whole Roswell thing. And they're like, seriously, guys, aliens can travel through space hundreds of light years and get to us, but they can't fly through our atmosphere and they crash land in the desert.
Exactly.
Come on. So, yeah, I always roll my eyes super hard when there's a sci-fi story and some huge, scary ship shows up and we're, an all-out space war and they're trying to take the Earth or take our solar system. And the aliens inside the ships are like complete monsters and just like wild, like barbarian heathen creatures. Like, how did they live long enough to get here? How did they fly a spaceship? How did they make a spaceship?
It becomes a joke, like when people see, like, oh, I saw a saucer in the sky. You look at the people that do the interviews, like, you're like, you don't look okay. Like, already, like, when they do the, like, face-to-face interviews, it's like, you already look kind of nutty. Why should we believe you? Which makes this to be a joke, I saw an alien,
Yeah. But
you never know. Maybe they have.
UFO sightings have a bad rep as far as who's reporting them, but I think it's a stereotype. There have been plenty of mentally sound and stable people that have reported aliens. It's funny you mentioned that because I just listened to an episode today from the Stuff They Don't Want You to Know podcast, which is really fun. They talk about conspiracy theories and kind of fringe science and stuff, but they keep things pretty factual and level-headed. That's why I really like it. But in today's episode...
It's a good podcast.
Yeah, in the episode I listened to today, they were talking about a UFO sighting that happened in Africa, and it was witnessed by 60 students at a school, like an elementary to junior high school. There were 60 students that saw this craft land. They saw an alien come out, psychically communicated to some of them. They all had the same story, all corroborated, all lined up to the same thing. And that's wild to me.
Nice. And if they showed up at a school, it's midday.
Yeah, they did, which is also interesting because UFO stuff usually happens in, night when people are sleepy and or drunk and don't know what a shooting star is. If you want to look that up more, it's called the aerial UFO sighting or the aerial school phenomenon. And it's from the school in Zimbabwe called Ariel School. It's a Christian school. And it's just a really wild story. There's a documentary being made about it. And I don't know where I stand on it, honestly.
Crazy that many people were willing to communicate instead of run, Like, and you see in the movies, the alien invasion, all of a sudden, run, panic.
Yeah.
Well, I think this thing just comes out of nowhere, and it's like, hey.
I got the impression that the ship or whatever was landed kind of far away, but it was still, visible range, and some aliens came out of the ship.
I wonder what it sounded like. Like, woo, 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 woo.
Oh, yeah, they always sound like that, yeah. Hurry, guys, land. Our battery's dying. Yeah, I love engine sound design in sci-fi. It's always so cool. So two other possibilities for alien life and their agenda or their where they're coming from is they could also be, if we find them, they could be totally underdeveloped. Like I always joke, when I'm watching National Geographic and there's these just wild sea creatures or just crazy, mammals that I've never even seen or heard of. I always lean over to my wife and say, what if we finally make it to some planet and that's the alien? That's it. Like, how disappointed will we all be? We finally find a freaking alien and it's like a gerbil or it's a jellyfish that can't do anything.
Or it's a little tiny itty bitty alien that pops out of like a head.
It could be a microbial life form. Like we find some goo on a rock. Oh, we found alien life, but it's a sticky goo. It's like mold. Sorry.
I mean, like 2 possibilities. Either it's like what you just said, or they're kick butt aliens. Maybe they're just in a vulnerable spot. That's the only way we can get so close to them.
You're like, oh, sorry guys, you caught us at a bad time. Once a month we revert to goo, and we'll be back in a week.
We ran out of gas, and so you could just keep going. It's okay.
There's a really cool book by Isaac Asimov, and basically there's this organic life form that spans the surface of an entire planet. And it's basically like the brain is like a neural network of fungi, I think it is. And it spreads the whole planet over. And so the planet itself is almost sentient in a sense because the life form covers the entire planet. Cool idea. But, if we land on that planet and we see these, let's say like roots, like a tree root, stretching all over the place, we'll think, oh, that's a cool plant. That's a cool plant life form. Let me start to cut it up to examine it, and it freaks out and lashes back at us. That could be a life form. We don't know what alien life will look like. It's alien.
Yeah. I mean, shoot. Maybe the reason there's so many planets is because each planet is an alien.
Yeah, and they're all just ganging up on us. They're coming. They're coming for us. They want our planet. They want to hook up with Earth. Sorry, humans, you don't fit into our relationship here. You need to go. So that's the third possibility. There is they're underdeveloped, or they're very, as I said, underwhelming. They're just not what we expected. Nothing cool to look at. Nothing to communicate with. And a fourth option, which I hinted at earlier, is that they are neutral. They're not good or bad. But that's because they're just so freaking alien that we don't know what to do with them, or we don't even recognize them as aliens. I love that when that happens in a sci-fi story where they find something and it turns out to be an alien and they didn't know it at first. Because I feel like that's a very realistic possibility. We might find, like I said, vines that stretch over a continent or a little circle on the ground, and that could be the alien that we are looking for, but we don't know it yet. I read a story. It was a Catholic science fiction book, and it was an anthology of short stories. They were all Catholic sci-fi. It was very odd, but one of them was, we landed on a planet, started a colony, and we needed to harvest, what was basically trees to get wood to use for, building materials. Started hacking away at this tree, and it smacks the guy in the head. And turns out it's a sentient alien, like Groot. Basically, it's like a tree person. This forest of trees are not trees. They're beings that have a mind and organs, and they're alive. So that was a cool little twist. Like, you think it's a tree, but it's not. So let's talk about the effect on society that the discovery of intelligent, sentient aliens might have.
One thing I think would be like unjust treatment in like the black market, like in District 9.
Yeah, currently, in case you're not aware, there are countries, not so much here in America, although I'm sure there are people that do this and it's here, but a lot of in Africa that I know of, people like albinos and people with, genetic anomalies and things like that. They are sought after by people like witch doctors, and a lot of them get killed and their body parts sold on the black market for spells and shamans and magic stuff. And it's awful. I mean, it's disgusting. It's probably one of the worst human crimes, up there with child trafficking and, molestation, is the black market on human body parts. And I feel like that could possibly happen with aliens too. We see it in District 9, the shamans and the witch doctors over there in Johannesburg are, buying, eyes and fingers and body parts of aliens because people that don't know any better and are very superstitious believe that there's power in these things. And I don't know, I can see that happening. That or alien trafficking for other nefarious goals.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah. But you know what? Humans, we could be pretty crappy, and it would not surprise me if that were a side effect.
I guess there's some people listening and be like, well, what if they do that to us? And that's right. What if they do that to us too,
That's a great point. It could be flip-flopped. Obviously, if an alien can get to Earth, they're pretty dang advanced. And, we could become slaves for them, and we might not be able to fight back or do anything about it because of their advanced technology or whatever. So we might become their body parts for sale. That's disturbing. Someone needs to write that story just to expose that. That would be interesting. So we could become their slaves as a result of them finding us. Other things that are a little less violent, but still not cool, is segregation and mistreatment. There's an old show that I loved as a kid. It was called Alien Nation, and it was like a family drama with aliens. And in this universe, an alien ship, ironically of slaves, that have escaped their slave masters from their planet, they find Earth and they basically crash land, and they're kind of stranded on Earth. But lucky for them, they're able to work their way into human society. Maybe 30% of America's population are aliens or less, and the rest are humans. Some of them get along fine. There's even interspecies marriage, which is really cool. But then there's a lot of segregation and racism among the aliens and humans. And that show was so cool because it was able to really highlight real problems that we're still dealing with as humans with, interracial stuff. But they had the sci-fi spin on it, So yeah, segregation and mistreatment could definitely, very, very likely, if those aliens do incorporate into everyday, Earth societies in our everyday life. Then the opposite could be true too. Things like immigration and social integration, which we see a lot of in Star Wars. We see a lot of aliens just totally interacting. There's no problem. Some aliens might not like each other, but it's usually on a case-by-case basis. But overall, the aliens learn each other's languages. They make each other's goods and products and food, and I just love that world that they live in because it's so cool. I love those big shots in Star Wars where there's a big old, bazaar or a street or a outside business happening, and every creature you look at is a different race. That's really cool to me.
Yeah, they did a lot of that in Rogue One when they were walking through the city. I was like, oh, this is so cool.
Even the pig nose guy from Star Wars Episode 4 was in there.
Yeah.
The guy in the cantina. I don't like you very much. I think that's what he said. He somehow, of all the people that survived that movie, that guy survived. Come on. Another movie that we see a lot of integration of various species is that movie Valerian, which is pretty cringy overall. It was beautiful and it was fun to watch my first time through. But boy, were there some issues with that. Have you seen that movie?
No, because of that comment you just made there. Everybody says it's visually pleasing, but you're probably going to cringe the whole time. So you probably want to watch it in the comfort of your own home and not pay $8+ for a movie ticket.
Yeah, well, it's not in theaters anymore, so you're good. But I'd say check it out. There's some parts of it that are good sci-fi. I appreciated a lot of ideas and things that they implemented into it. They really went all out. They tried to outdo Star Wars as far as the alien variation and alien worlds and alien stuff. But
not gonna happen.
There's some big shortcomings in there. Anyway, aliens everywhere. They're all friendly and it's all happy and cool, and they live in their own little realms so that they can accommodate for their needs and their atmosphere and stuff like that. So who knows? Maybe that will be the future of Earth. Is we'll have all kinds of Earth will be the melting pot of the galaxy.
But hopefully, it's better than that movie. Reality.
Yes, hopefully. Some negative things that might occur as a result of discovering aliens and meeting aliens is, of course, mass hysteria. That always happens when something crazy pops up. Y2K or swine flu, Star Wars Episode 8. Real.
Or like whatever happened to the Mayans.
Yeah, the Mayans. Or Star Wars Episode 8. real earth-changing stuff, It's
funny.
So if we find aliens, I think there would be a lot of people that just could not cope with that. And who knows? There might be mass hysteria. There just might be riots, and I don't know. I don't know what happened. And of course, religious hysteria is probably way more likely than the previous one. Because let's face it, us religious people can be pretty crazy sometimes, and how they interpret things and assumptions that they make and connections that they draw in their own little minds. Every time there's a catastrophe, there's some religious nut that comes up and says, this was prophesied, or this is God's judgment, or that was God, or that was the devil. There's always someone that offers their unneeded 2 cents to interpret something natural or an accident that happens. And, personally, I'm just like, shut up. Like, go away. We don't need your commentary while people are grieving and suffering and we're trying to rebuild society here. Like, why don't you be part of the solution?
Need you to not.
The subject of aliens and religion is the one that I think about a lot. One of my biggest pet peeves is it often comes from an atheist, but where they say, if we discover aliens, religion will fall apart, or Christianity and other religions will be disproved because there's aliens out there. I don't get that. I don't get those assumptions and that connection. There's no connection between those two things. Aliens do not pose any problem for the Bible or for Christianity or God, because within Christianity, if we find aliens, guess who made those aliens? God. God made everything. He made all life. He made all immaterial and material of the universe. So they would just be another creation of God's. Now, whether they have sinned like us or not, that's another discussion that, a lot of people like to take up. Ultimately, we couldn't know, but it is thought provoking. Sin has originated from the garden within in Genesis. So what if there's an alien race out there that didn't sin, that has maintained a perfect relationship with God? That would be pretty crazy, because they wouldn't need Jesus, and they would basically be like angels. And of course, there's that common trope in, more New Age sci-fi and weird stuff where they'll say, angels are just misunderstood aliens, And in fact, did you see that Facebook status I did, Nate, about aliens?
It blew up.
Oh man, it was huge. I basically just said, like, what are your thoughts on aliens? What do you think their effect will be on society and economy and science and religion? And you know what almost everyone commented on? The religion. No one said anything about science or society or economy.
Bible thumpers.
Well, a lot of it was the opposite, but there was some in between. But yeah, a lot of them went directly for that one of the 5 things I asked was the religion thing. And there were some very colorful and interesting theories on there. I'll just put it like that, saying, that aliens are not on other planets, that they're just extra dimensional, and that if we get in the right frequency and mindset through meditation or whatever, like, we can communicate with them because they're already right here, just on a different layer of reality. Yeah. And of course there's the what if, like, what if aliens are actually, angels, and what if demons are actually aliens? Yeah.
That sounds more plausible than the first statement you made about the demons being aliens. Okay. That's fine. Because a lot of people actually believe that if we did find aliens, they are demons. And so, that's a whole can of worms that I don't understand or want to get into. But a lot of people believe, well, aliens are just Hollywood's versions of making demons okay. It's like, well, thanks for pooping on my, my love for sci-fi. I appreciate it.
Yeah, one thing that I've noticed is that a lot of abduction stories and a lot of sightings and all these terrifying accounts of what aliens did to me, or these things that they taught me about the universe and taught me about life. Like, I don't know. I feel like those, a lot of times they line up with what could be interpreted as demonic experiences.
Yeah.
Not so much angelic experiences, because they don't lead anyone to God. They either lead you into fear and superstition and, further deeper levels of conspiracy stuff, or the other option is they lead you into, kind of new agey, self-help, you're your own God, everyone's lying to you kind of stuff. And that, again, that's also not leading you to God. So I just see like the fruit of a lot of these things is leading you away from God. And I don't think that could be of God.
Back to the whole comment, aliens are demons. That's where people, like what you just said, literally I've had discussion about aliens and like, well, they're just demons. And like, well, then why does Hollywood? And they're like, well, Hollywood just deceives you. And I was like, okay, well, that's true. But, if you think about it too deeply, you're taking the storytelling out of it, and now we're talking about way too deep in the conversation that I was not trying to get into.
Well, there's 2 sides to that coin too. One side is that demons are literally aliens from another world or whatever, and then the flip side is that alien experiences that we have here on Earth are actually demons posing as an alien being. They're posing as a beam of light or a sphere of light flying around, or they're posing as a peaceful thing in a UFO coming down to give you enlightenment. It's a demon, which is a supernatural creation, a supernatural creature posing to deceive you, posing as an alien. The effect of aliens on religion will surely be an interesting thing. A lot of Christians don't believe what I believe. They don't believe that aliens will fit into the worldview. And in fact, a lot of Christians will tell you, oh, there's definitely not aliens. And you ask them why, and you say, well, because they're not in the Bible. I'm thinking, oh, okay. Well, neither is spaghetti, Toyota trucks, NASA, television,
smartphones,
the internet. There's a lot of things that aren't in the Bible that are real. Yeah. That's just
podcasting.
Yeah. Oh no, we're not real. It's just a really slippery slope. When you say that something that is not in the Bible cannot exist after the Bible is written, I don't believe that God would have included aliens into the Bible, honestly, because look at what a mess we've done with all the stuff he has included. I mean, schisms within the church, drama, cults, dangerous leaders, and wild Christian cults, have branched out of what the Bible does say. If God dropped any direct hints of aliens in the Bible, or even like was really upfront and said, yes, there's other planets with other life, just like you, like, oh boy, we would be in a big mess today. I'm glad God did not mention any aliens directly in the Bible, because we just can't handle that. And I believe that God is wise. When he inspired the people to write the Bible, he included just what we needed, just the bare essentials. If he included everything else, like, the Bible would never have ended. There would just be thousands of books of the Bible, like, volume 482, volume 9008, it's ridiculous. So I roll my eyes when I hear that. They're like, well, you don't find aliens in the Bible, do you? I'm like, yeah, I also don't find you in the Bible. So do you exist?
And you drop the microphone and walk away.
And they're like, wait, where are you going? Where'd you get that microphone from? I think we can all agree that it's going to really upset things if we discover aliens. Now, I've talked a lot about aliens coming to us just because we're just not in any shape to go anywhere outside our planetary area,
I mean, we can't even figure out how to get to Mars. I mean, like, so what makes you think we're going to, oh, hey, hello, Mr. Alien, how are you? It's just, we figured it, it's not probably going to happen anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes some rich guy with a weird name to even come up with the idea of how to get to Mars. And we're finally getting there, but getting outside the solar system, that is like levels higher of complexity and issues that we'll need to have very advanced technologies to even think about doing. So we're nowhere near that. That's why I've kind of just been using that scenario of an alien coming to us, or maybe we find it, within our solar system somewhere. And I didn't say this earlier. I guess I should have. I don't literally believe in aliens, that they exist, just because there's not enough evidence to tell me, otherwise. If SETI started receiving like Morse code, that was definitely not from Earth, or it started receiving like binary transmissions or intelligent looking waveforms, like, I might change my mind, slowly as evidence comes out. But
or technobabble.
Yeah. If we hear technobabble, the flux capacitor of the inverse ion generator.
It's not. I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
Yeah, SETI will finally be able to say that line when we get intelligent messages. So I don't literally believe in aliens, but a majority of my brain power is often used up thinking, what if? That's where this whole episode came out of. We would love to hear from you guys, though. If y'all have an opinion of what aliens are, if they're real, where are they, and why haven't we heard from them, and what is their favorite color, we'd love to hear from you guys, so email us at any time.
Thanks for listening to the Visionary Variety Podcast. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you won't miss any of our future episodes. You can also find our previous episodes there and listen whenever you want.
And like I always say, we love to hear from our listeners, so if you've got any comments on this episode or even suggestions for a future episode, we'd love to hear from you guys. You can reach out to us at tvvpodcast@gmail.com.
Episode 30. What if we discovered aliens?
I wonder. It beckons the question.
Kermit the Frog.
Aliens.